What is going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rays, back with another The First Descendant video to bring to you, and today we are going to be looking at a recently published article by Thomas Franzese at Digital Trends, which was an interview held with Lee Baumjun, and the producer and the head of Magnum Studio, which is the team behind The First Descendant. And just for the record, I do apologise if I have pronounced any of those wrong. Please let me know in the comments if I have. I do apologise about that. But this article goes into a bit more detail than we already had around the monetization of The First Descendant, and looks to put some other fears to rest. But before we go any further, make sure you have dropped a like and a subscribe on the video. It really helps the channel out. And did you know only 19% of you watching are currently subscribed to the channel? It's completely free to do so, helps us out to be able to make more content like this, and keeps you up to date with all future content to come for the channel. On top of this, we are also partnered with Player Ammo, your one-stop shop for the ultimate energy and focus formula designed to level up your performance. Make sure to use code BABBLE at the checkout to be able to save yourself 10% off of your order. And with all that out of the way, let's get right into it. Alright, so with this article we are going to work our way down one question at a time to be able to look at what information we can gather and help to form an idea as to what to expect with the launch of the beta next month. So let's get started with the first question dropped by Lee, and this was: the cooperative shooter genre has seen a great resurgence recently. What made this genre appealing for Nexon, and how do you plan on making the First Descendant stick out from other games in the genre? Now this is a great question, as games like Outriders and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands have seen some great success from sales, making them worthwhile IPs to be over to their developers for future releases, and titles like Destiny 2 and The Division 2 getting high numbers every month for their live service models, encouraging players to be able to keep popping back for more. The response we got from Lee was as follows: as you can see, the co-op shooter genre has been recently drawing attention again, and I think it's still a growing genre. We focused on the co-op shooter genre as we wanted to create an online game that is loved worldwide. I'd like to highlight the 2 points that differentiate the First Descendant from other games of the same genre, and the first is going to be our service philosophy. Our goal is to create a game that will be loved and enjoyed by players for a long time. We aspire to provide continuous updates and satisfy our players with stable online services. The second point is related to the game itself. The First Descendant has diverse, attractive characters that battle with their unique skill sets and a variety of guns. Based on this combat mechanism, we provide huge boss battles where players must defeat the bosses via co-op, and there are many other differentiating points, but these are the two we think are the most crucial. Now we get our first bit of information from this question, and it massively hints at the longevity behind the key design philosophy for Nexon with the First Descendant, talking about this being enjoyable for players for a long time, and it comes across that they are dedicated to be able to get this right and having players for months to come once released, which, if the gameplay loop is there, is awesome to hear. Now the second part does give me a little bit of worry though, because there isn't any context to the comments, and clearly being hidden as to not give too much on the game away. And what I mean is when Lee mentions huge boss battles that must defeat the boss via co-op, it comes across as either raid bosses that are going to be a thing in the actual release, or need to be predetermined squads, or it does mean that the story mode can't be completed solo, as bosses will require other people to be in the same place story-wise to be able to squad up and progress. Now I'm hoping this comment is more on the former than the latter, as I can imagine the player base would become very upset having to be able to matchmake to progress story-wise, so you can become hindered if you join the story grind a bit late on. Next we get the question furthering what we have seen so far on the weapons and gear, but also looks to answer a bit more on the what we are looting side of things, and that's how will players be able to customize their character abilities and loadouts in the game. Now we've seen in the Tokyo Game Show trailer different weapons being utilized, ranging from ARs to pistols and slow firing explosives, so Lee has furthered what we've seen with the following response: each character's skill set is fixed because it is an area of their unique background, personality and strategic combat. However, players can customize their characters and weapons by attaching gear called runes. Now, runes will provide various functions, such as increasing specific stats or providing additional performance or passives. Players have limited resources to choose runes, so they must think about the best rune setting that suits their playstyle or character traits. For example, if you play a character with high gunplay proportion, it would be helpful to focus on the defense stats of the gun and the character, whereas if your playstyle consists of wide range combat based on skills, you might want to choose a rune that will increase the range of your skills or even decrease the skill cooldown. The freedom to make all these choices will provide the fun of customizing your play. So we get our first info dump about customization of builds, and this will be done through the use of runes. The types confirmed as of right now are going to be for defense increases, which can strangely be applied to the gun as well as the character, range increases for your skills, which will help make skills like the flame ability a little bit more potent, and cooldown decreases so you can spam your abilities more often. It's going to be interesting to see how strong the skills are and how low of a cooldown we can also get as well. I'm looking forward to being able to test the limitations of this and how effective of a strategy this will be. Now I'm going to skip the next question about creating a new IP as a studio, not because it isn't interesting, because it definitely is, but as this doesn't look to offer us any kind of gameplay oriented information, and if you're interested in reading the full interview, I will happily link the article in the video description, so head yourself over there to be able to have a read of that one. So after that, we do get a question aimed more at the story side of the First Descendant for all you story mode enthusiasts out there. Now Thomas asks, how will narrative content be delivered in the First Descendant? And Lee goes on to confirm that the story mode being present, most likely the forefront of the game, before going and getting into the endgame grind notorious with looter shooter games. Lead mentions we have a main story in the game, and the content is delivered through quests and in-game cinematic scenes. We will continue to add these stories with each major update, and as you may have guessed, the character that appears in the Gamescom trailer is the story's main villain. In addition to the main story, several other stories and story settings will be shown throughout various methods in-game, and discovering these hidden side stories and background lore will be exciting and fun. Now the teasing of hidden side stories does seem to suggest we may need to track down quests to be able to fill in the blanks, and could even mean certain loot drops for being able to complete. Now granted, this is pure speculation on my part for that, but we have seen quests like this in past with similar games, like for example Outriders, offering hidden bosses in their expeditions, or legendary loot tied to a small puzzle in a level. Now I'd love to see what Nexon have got cooking up for this, and I am a massive fan of Easter eggs just in general, and looking for something that's a bit hidden. Now once again, I'm going to leave the next question about using Unreal Engine 5 over Unreal Engine 4 for the First Descendant, as this talks about design choices for visuals and is not going to affect gameplay. So if you do want to check that out, once again, head yourself over to the link in the description to be able to read more on that one. Now next up is the big one on everyone's mind, and the first thing that everyone wanted to ask once we heard the First Descendant was free to play, and that's how monetization will play a factor in the game. And now it's not unheard of for a game to be free to play purely to do well off of cosmetics. Just looking at Fortnite and Apex Legends does prove this, but Nexon has a little bit of a history when it comes to pay to win games. So Lee looks to be able to set the record straight, responding to the question by Thomas of how are we approaching monetization for the First Descendant as a free to play game. Will you charge for specific characters, stages or gear? And to which Lee responded with, I believe that many players are curious and concerned about this, since we have been running on the same track and direction since the beginning of development. We were surprised to see that after our game reveal, many players were concerned about the excessive pay to win aspects of Nexon's games. Ultimately, we aspire not to pursue excessive pay-to-win aspects. The monetization model will also not deviate significantly from games of the same genre. Paid products will indeed exist, but the characters, equipment, and stages that are needed for gameplay and progress in the game can be earned through gameplay. Now, while it's awesome to hear about characters old and new, all the equipment needed, and the stages to play can be earned through gameplay, it does worry me a little bit regarding the fact that the words not to pursue excessive was used to be able to describe the pay-to-win aspects. Now, I understand it may have been used to show them separating this game from previous titles, but it also opens up what they could be looking at how to still allow pay-to-win mechanics, but just not to the degree they have done in the past. MapleStory, while it's not a game I have personally played, seemed to have a reputation for becoming pay-to-win after items were pretty much locked behind paywalls. Now, I'm not against having the ability to be able to pay money for things like XP boosters or cosmetics. I've bought my fair share of loot box items in the past, Rocket League, CSGO, but even though I have the ability, I want to know that it doesn't get to be an unfair location where you can't achieve the same level without spending more time in-game to be able to do it for free. You should always be able to get to the same level as other players regardless if you spend money or not, just a question of time put into the grind to be able to get there, with people paying some funds to be able to get there faster. Now, while I understand that's how most of the players appreciate monetization when it comes to games, let me know in the comments section down below how you feel about players paying money to be able to get XP boosters, and if you think that's a fair option for the game to have, especially when it does need a monetization kind of ability, considering this is free to play to be able to get access to. Now, the last question that Thomas asked was more for the beta and what the company hopes to be able to get out of it feedback-wise. He says, what areas of the game are you hoping to get the most feedback on with October's beta? Now, Lee replies with the following: since it's our first official test, we'd love to receive feedback on all aspects. However, I'm curious about the evaluation of areas that the dev team worked especially hard on to improve after the closed FGT we held at the beginning of the year. Considering that this is a looter shooter, the most critical areas to be able to check, in my opinion, are the battle and the progression, along with the fun of co-op play. Co-op content and functions have been significantly enhanced after the closed FGT, and I hope players will be able to enjoy playing together. Other than that, I am eager to hear user opinions on the visual quality and smooth control, which has been evaluated highly before, change in the core PvE content, and UX, which has been improved, as well as by implementing feedback from the FGT. Now, it's great to hear the team are keen to be able to hear what we've worked on and what works and what doesn't work so well, to try and help shape that game for its full release. Now, I'm personally hoping for a direct way for us to be able to communicate with the developers during the beta, so we can advise in real time as we find issues or answer the questions they came up with asking about a particular area that they want to be able to know more on. I found this to be awesome with Outriders and their betas, liaising with the developers there and then to be able to discuss what we found. It felt like they wanted to hear our voices and the opinions mattered at the time. I'm not going to say too much about obviously how it's kind of transpired when it came to World Slayer, but during the process of the beta, it was a really fun experience, and it was great to be able to see the developers were asking so many questions of the beta players. Now, like many people, I have high hopes for this title, so if you get entry into the beta, I'm just going to plead to you, do all the current and future players of the title a favour and help to advise the developers on what you found worked well and what they missed the mark on, because this game only gets better with us collectively giving top-notch feedback. And there you go, that is it on the video. Let me know in the comment section down below, what did you find from this interview? Does it make you feel a little bit better about the monetization? Are you happy to hear of the story that's going to be in the game? What do you think of the bosses that require co-op? Is there anything else that's going to be on your mind? Let me know in the comment section down below, and we can look into this together. Massive thank you for making this way this far into the video, and to the Babylonian family for their continued support. If you haven't already, come join us over on the Discord where we talk daily with the community, and we'd love to hear your views on game titles, and the link can be found in the video description below. And with all that out of the way, it just leaves me to say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on our next video.